peeps. I hope you guys had a great Cinco de Mayo. Maybe had some yummy food to go with the holiday. Today is, or it's going to be Wednesday, May 6th, and this is your daily announcement. And I'm also going to be going over the last slide in our inheritance assignment, which is going to take us to a genetic disorder project. Okay, so Wednesday 5-6, it says continue with slides. If you have not taken the check for understanding, please do so. That is on slide 17. Okay, you can now click on this link. It will be in locked mode and timed. Now, here's the deal. You need a code to get into it. Just as a reminder, the code is variation. The code is variation. So after your name and hour, you will have to type in the word variation in order to continue on. Okay. After that is completed and your slides are completed, you can begin the genetics disorder research presentation. So on the very last slide, slide 18, there's a link to a Google Doc. So when you open it up, the Google Doc is right here. So the idea here is that we're tying in mutations, protein synthesis, and the formation of proteins and traits, and inheritance. I'm going to count it as distance learning project. I'm going to count it as 50 assessment points. And I'm actually thinking about making this part of your final exam. We still do have final exams. This is a high school course. And so this will be counted as accordingly, rather than take a comprehensive test. Since we're not going to be able to do reviews and whatnot, I think this is going to be a little bit more fair. And it ties in quite a few topics that we've talked about this semester. So the introduction lets you know about how genetics is important for understanding how mutations in DNA can lead to a disorder. Now, remember, not all mutations lead to a disorder, and not all disorders are inherited, but we're going to focus on mutations that do lead to disorders and disorders that are actually inherited. You're going to apply the understanding of how proteins are made from DNA and how genes are inherited as you investigate your disorder. So, in the past, I've done this where people can work in groups, but then I have people do a more thorough research report in addition to a presentation. Since we're all kind of all over the place and some people are communicating with their peers, but some aren't, I'm going to have everyone kind of be on the same footing here. And everyone's going to be doing this on their own. But instead of doing a report and a presentation, you're just going to be doing the presentation part, okay? So you will research a known genetic disorder, and then you're going to create a presentation. You can use Google Slides, an infographic such as Canva or PictoChart, screencast video, podcast. The sky is the limit. You can use your creativity here. Whatever you feel comfortable using, whatever digital media you feel comfortable using, that you can answer and include all the requirements that I'm going to show you, you can choose. Okay, just make sure that whatever format you choose, you make sure that you have your share settings on. So if it's Google Slides, then make sure that you share. I always just by default do anyone with the link, just to make life easier in case you want to share it with someone else later on down the road. Or you can just type my name. If you're doing a screencast, same thing. You have to have it set to share. It's going to be in your Google Drive. So whatever method, and if not, if I can't open it, I will email you and let you know. But I know that that's sometimes like those little technology glitches that even I forget about sometimes. It's easy to overlook, but please make sure you share it. You're going to post these in a Padlet when you're finished, and we're going to evaluate each other's. And when I say evaluate, it's a low stakes evaluation, but we're going to look for some positives and maybe provide some constructive criticisms, of how maybe their presentation can be improved. So, disorder sign up. If you have not signed up for disorder, there is a list of them here. It looks like a few people have already signed up. This is not all of them. There's more disorders out there than what I included. Okay, I just included some of the top ones, some ones that I was able to find some tools for to start you off with. It's on a first come, first serve basis. So make sure that if you have a disorder in mind, you put your name down. Now, no more than 2 people can do it. Now, I said you're not working in pairs, but it's okay for two people to do it. So like right here, we have Down syndrome. We have two people doing it. Now they're not going to be working together. They're going to each have their own presentation, but they can each do the same disorder. So I hope that's not too confusing. Um, Now scroll down for the requirements. This is the rubric I'm going to be using. So you're going to have the name of the disorder. I'm going to put and your name somewhere on it. It's surprising how many people forget to actually put their name on their presentation. You're going to have to define it. What happens to the body? What part of the body does it affect? Does it affect the hair? Does it affect the skin pigmentation? Does the body start to shut down? Does it stop producing something? List all the possible effects on the body. So if you were to go and see a doctor about the disorder, what would some of the symptoms be that the doctor would be asking you about? And so this is kind of a little overview of it. These points right here, you notice, are 8 points each. These are the most important sections that I'll be looking at. The first one is the cause of the disorder. I want you to identify on what chromosome is the defective gene located. Remember, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. 22, we call them autosomes because those are ones that don't have to do with gender and they're the exact same, like chromosome 1 from mom, 1 from dad. Chromosome 2, 1 from mom, 1 from dad. Those are autosomes, 22 pairs of those, and then you have your sex chromosomes. Some of you will have genetic disorders that are on the X chromosome, for instance, and they're considered sex-linked. Some of you will have disorders that are not on that. If it's not, some of you will have chromosomal abnormalities. It's not just one gene on the chromosome. Some of you will have an entire extra chromosome or an entire missing chromosome. So you're going to identify either what chromosome is the gene located on or which chromosome the abnormality or mutation occurs on, okay? Whether it's an extra one, it's missing part of a chromosome completely, or it's missing the entire chromosome. Also, is there anything that triggers it to start the onset of this disease? It could be an environmental trigger. It could be something, some other kind of gene that's responsible for triggering it. It could be hormones in the onset of puberty. So what could kind of start the onset of the disease? Okay, and so this right here, we're looking at the chromosomal, we're looking at the molecular level, the molecular biology of it. And then you're going to talk to me about the inheritance pattern. Is it autosomal dominant or recessive? That means, is it found on like chromosomes 1 through 22 and it does like a dominant recessive pattern? Is it sex-linked on your sex chromosome? Are there several genes involved? And we call that polygenic. Polygenic just means it's many genes. Is it due to a chromosomal issue from meiosis? Okay, remember meiosis produces your gametes. Sometimes if there's a mutation during meiosis, there are certain disorders that will end up with an extra chromosome or a missing chromosome because they didn't split correctly during meiosis. And so if you have an abnormality or a disorder that involves an extra chromosome or a missing one, or ones that have like, we call that translocation, you might be dealing with an issue with meiosis. Now, not only do you have to identify how it's inherited, I want you to actually describe what that means. Okay? Then how is it treated? What current therapies are currently being done and which ones are being researched? Some of you will come across something called CRISPR-Cas9, which is a gene editing biotechnology that came about maybe like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that it started entering mainstream the biotech world, in which we can actually take out the mutated base and insert the correct base. And so some of you might find something called CRISPR-Cas9 that is a tool that is currently being researched. And then how is the disorder diagnosed? Are there certain tests that are done? Can there be any genetic testing as a baby or in utero to see if that person has the condition? So some of you guys, it might be disorders that you could identify just using x-rays and MRIs and looking at the symptoms. Sometimes you can actually diagnose it using gene testing, and making or looking at the karyotypes. Okay, and so try to identify what kinds of tests are done to identify it, to diagnose it. And then this right here, the incidence part, is looking at the population that's affected by it. How many and what type of people are likely to have the disorder? Do certain groups have it more? Like, is it more prevalent in females or males? Is it more prevalent in Europeans, those of European descent, or maybe of African descent? So you might have certain ethnicities that are diagnosed more with it. You might have certain genders. You might have certain age group. How common is it? Is it rare? Is it common? So these are the types of questions that you're going to answer in the incidence part. And then finally, discovery and evolution. Notice this is 6 points. It's almost as much as those 8 pointers up above. We're going to be going into evolution for the last part here. And these topics here, these points here, kind of go into the discovery and evolution, the change of the disorder over time. So first, when was it discovered? When was it identified? Have there been any changes in the disorder? Okay, have there been any mutations? Have there been any changes in symptoms? Okay, evolution just means change over time. So has this disorder changed, in the last couple of 100 years, in the last 500 years? What about the people being diagnosed? Are there certain groups, based on the incidence up here, that seem to be having a higher incidence of it lately? Or has it always been kind of the same incidence amount for different groups? And then, are there any theories as to what may have led to the discovery or increase in patients exhibiting the disorder? Maybe you'll find out that there's a connection between lifestyle, hunter-gatherer versus farming. Maybe it's location. If you're looking at like skin cancer, for instance, melanoma, there's different theories about where you're at in relationship to the equator and the pigmentation, and also how that darker pigmentation from the melanin affects vitamin K absorption. Diabetes, there's some different theories for diabetes out there. And so whatever you can find for what may have led to like different people having a different occurrence in different types of populations, I want you to include that. And it's I'm being kind of loose on this. Some disorders will have more in one category and less in another, and I know that, and I know which disorders will have a lot of theories, and I know which disorders won't. So I won't judge you on if you can't find it. Okay, if you've actually tried to look and you have trouble finding one of these points, again, I know what the research is out there, and if you're not sure, you can always email me and I can point you in a couple of directions. Finally, just what did you learn from it? Don't forget references and resources, and then like your creativity, readability, accuracy, appropriateness of your presentation. I'm not requiring you. Yep, I am. I am going to require you to do a screencast to talk about it. Okay, I am going to unless you're doing like a podcast. If you're doing a podcast, you won't have to do a screencast because that's a different presentation style completely. Total brings it up to 50 points. And then down here, once you pick, and if you've already picked a disorder, I really hope that you saw that there were more pages on here. I believe for every disorder that I have listed, I have websites to start you off. This is not all inclusive. These are just kind of a few websites to get us started in it. Some of them you'll see are very, common. This is a popular one, Cold Springs Harbor Laboratory. They do a lot of research. This is the one that Watson, when we were talking about Watson working with his research, and they just kind of disconnected from Watson because of his racial comments. This is where he did his research at, okay? So they have a lot of information on different genetic disorders. Another popular one that you will see is, this one might be it. Another popular website is a genetics home reference. Here's Color Vision if you choose that. It has quite a bit of what you are required to include. So you should have plenty of information in what I gave you, but you are more than welcome to go outside of these websites to find information as well. Okay? Um, if you have any questions or you're really struggling, email me and I will help you figure out the sources or answer questions for you as needed. Now, finally, this is due on May 13th. So today is May 6th. It is due in 1 week. I think I'm going to change it because I'm having you guys do the screencast too, which means that you need to be very, very, very knowledgeable. I am going to have it set as May 20th, and that's in 2 weeks from today. Okay. We are going to be going on next week with evolution, but Friday you will have the class period. I'm not going to assign anything new. And Monday, I'm not going to assign anything new. A week from today, a week from the 6th, which is the 13th, we're going to start exploring evolution. But this is not due until the 20th. So you might have a new assignment overlapping with your research. And it just depends on, I guess, how you budget your time when you start on your presentation and your project. Some of you guys will be finished by this weekend, and that's fine too. So just keep me posted. If you have any difficulties balancing, if you have any questions at all, please let me know, okay? And I will talk to you guys later.